A seminary professor was vacationing with his wife in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. One morning, they were eating breakfast at this little restaurant, hoping to enjoy a quiet family meal. While they were waiting for their food, they noticed a distinguished-looking, white-haired man moving from table to table, visiting with a guest. The professor leaned over and whispered to his wife, "I hope he doesn't come over here." But sure enough, the man did come over to their table. "Where you folks from?" he asked in a friendly voice. "Oklahoma," they answered. "Well, it's great to have you here in Tennessee," the stranger said. "What do you do for a living?" "Well, I teach at a seminary," he replied. "Oh, so you teach preachers how to preach, do you? Well, I've got a really good story for you." And with that, the gentleman pulled up a chair and sat right down at the table with the couple. The professor groaned and he thought to himself, "Great, just what I need, another preacher story." The man started. "You see that mountain over there?" pointing out the restaurant window. Not far from the base of that mountain, there was a boy born to an unwed mother. He had a hard time growing up because every place he went, he was always asked the same question. "Hey boy, who's your daddy?" Whether he was at school or in the grocery store or the drugstore, or people would ask him the same question, "Who's your daddy?" He would hide at recess and lunchtime from the other students. He would avoid going into stores because that question hurt him so bad. When he was about 12 years old, a new preacher came to his church. He would always go in late and slip out early to avoid hearing the question, "Who's your daddy?" But one day, the new preacher said the benediction so fast that he got caught and had to walk out of church with the crowd. And just about the time he got to the back door, the new preacher, not knowing anything about him, put his hand on his shoulder and he asked him, "Son, who's your daddy?" The whole church got deathly quiet. He could feel every eye in the church looking at him. Now, everyone would finally know the answer to the question, "Who's your daddy?" The new preacher, though, sensed the situation around him, and using his discernment that only the Holy Spirit could give, said the following to the scared little boy. "Wait a minute, I know who you are. I see the family resemblance now. You're a child of God." And with that, he patted the boy on the shoulder and said, "Boy, you've got a great inheritance. Now go claim it." With that, the boy smiled for the first time in a long time, and he walked out the door a changed person. He was never the same again. Whenever anyone would ask him, "Who's your daddy?" he would just tell them, "I'm a child of God." The distinguished gentleman got up from the table and he said, "Now isn't that a great story?" The professor responded, "Well, actually it was a great story." And as the man turned to leave, he said, "If that new preacher hadn't told me that I was one of God's children, I probably wouldn't amounted to anything." And he walked away. The seminary professor and his wife were stunned. He called the waitress over and he asked her, "Ma'am, do you know who that man was? The one that just left our table?" The waitress grinned and said, "Of course. Everyone here knows him. That's Ben Hopper, the governor of Tennessee." Ben Hopper was the governor from 1911 to 1915 in the great state of Tennessee. Later on in life, he went on to write the book, The Unwanted Boy, the autobiography of Governor Ben W. Hopper. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel, where I share all sorts of Appalachian history and storytelling. Till next time, my friends.